All right.
You ready?
Let's get it started in here.
Let's get it started in here. All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Read This Book podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Duncan.
And I'm your other host, Matthew Meadow.
And we're here to talk about books.
What's new? What's new? Steven, how's it going, man?
It's going all right, man. It's going well enough that I forgot how to speak the English language
That
after
was-
we improvised our intro. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Hey, well,
Yeah.
you got to do it. You got to do what you can
You got to
with what you do, what you have.
You got to work with what you can do.
We are
as you must.
we are struggling.
I felt good about what I just did.
Okay, well, I'm glad to be back in person, Steven. I missed you.
Yeah. This is much better than staring at that wall over there.
Yeah. Well, we don't have fun lights behind us.
You
we did.
You had fun lights.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't.
I had a literal light bulb behind my
Yeah,
head.
I was in, it was midnight 30 in London. I decided to record a podcast.
As you do.
I think it went well. It was a shorter episode, but yeah, I'm
Yeah.
glad to be back in person. We're glad to be back together here doing this. Bro weekly check-in.
Bro, weekly check-in.
So I'll go first.
Please do.
I read 6 books in February.
Hey.
I kind of felt like I was on a little bit of a slide. I read less books this month I did last month by a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I read 2 novellas and 4 books.
Mm-hmm.
The novellas were Arabon and The Churn from the Expanse series. The 3 books were This Is How You Lose the Time War, which I will save for another episode.
Mhm.
Top 5 book of all time that I've read.
Snap. Okay.
Yeah. Top 10.
Why aren't you talking about it today?
Because I want to talk about it next time.
Okay.
I read both the duology of The Monk and the Robot, A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and A Psalm for the Wild Built. Reverse those, and that's how they go in the series.
Yep.
And then The Silent Land, which is the book I will be talking about today.
Okay. Exciting. So what's your yearly total up to
14,
out of?
50.
Hey.
That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good clip.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna, as long as I keep on this kind of trajectory, I'll definitely get there.
If you did 6 this month.
Mhm.
If you only did 6 per month, you would hit your goal.
That's true.
And since you already did more
That's
than
good
6 in
math.
January, you're way ahead of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really good at my multiplication tables
Yeah.
because I had to do flashcards as a kid.
What's
I
6
was
times 6 times 12?
6 times 12? 72.
Is that right?
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do 6 times 10, which is 60 plus 12,
Sure.
so 72. Yeah.
I just pulled that. I didn't even think. I shut my brain off. That came from somewhere in like the base of my neck.
The catacombs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So fun tidbit. I was homeschooled,
Mhm.
and so my mom was very insistent that I had to know my multiplication tables. So 1 through 12, right? And she had these flashcards, right? And we would just drill flashcards for. To me, it felt like hours. It
Yeah.
could have been 20 minutes because I was like, 5.
Yeah.
But to me, it felt like for hours and hours we would do these flashcards, and I was so bad at it. But we just had to memorize the tables, and she would do this game. It was a scavenger
Yeah.
hunt, if you will. And she would basically like lay out the cards in a pattern on the floor, and you would follow it like a map, and then maybe there would be a prize at the end.
Maybe.
Yeah, not always.
Yeah.
There's no guarantee of a prize. The prize could just be you get to be done.
Can I give you my multiplication table story?
Yes.
It's really sad, actually. So when I was in the
Sadder than
it was more
more
sad than
tracing
that.
around
Yes.
flashcards on a basement floor for
yes,
nothing.
Yes. So when I was in elementary school, we had to do these timed times table tests,
Okay.
and I never finished one. The silence and the look on your face.
Are
just
you
like,
okay?
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine now.
Okay.
I don't recall ever finishing one of those tests because I was so bad at it, and we would do it, and it was like weekly, and I just couldn't get it. Like
Yeah.
I could not memorize the pattern of times tables.
Oh my gosh.
I need to bring that up to my mom. I need to see if she remembers this and if she can confirm that I'd never finished a single one.
That is brutal.
But yeah, it was when I was in, I think, like 4th or 5th grade in elementary school. I could not do it. Now I'm fairly, okay
Yeah.
at math.
Yeah.
Like I can do basic math,
Yeah.
but at the time,
Consumer math.
yeah. At the time, it was 1, unbelievably embarrassing. 2, really frustrating. So I'm glad to have grown out of my unable to do timed times table tests.
These are sad for 2 completely different
Mhm.
reasons. One is like you suffered through this publicly
Yeah.
in front of people.
That's what public school is, man.
Mine is that I suffered through this completely
Yeah.
alone in a basement.
That's all public school is. All public school is publicly suffering in front of other people.
I was just alone and frustrated with my
Yeah.
mom and had no way to escape.
I don't want to do my times tables, Mom. That's
Yeah.
what you sounded like when you were in 4th grade, I'm sure.
Ah!
Hey, Ma, I don't want to do my times tables. Hey.
Look what they've done to my tables.
Tables. You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding, making me do times tables. How many books you read this
I
month?
want to go eat macaroni.
Oh my goodness! All right,
I laughed. It messed it up. All right, moving on. All right, so for February, I've already talked about most of them from the last week. I ended up reading 14 books in February, which was not on purpose because I only had 10 planned for. I swapped a couple out.
yeah, that is a
Um,
lot of books.
Yeah, it ended up being okay. One of them was a comic book, like a graphic novel
Mhm.
comic
Yeah.
book. Yeah, Batman Hush.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
good.
I want to get more into that world.
Yeah.
of the graphic novels, comic books.
I'm gonna read a couple of them.
Yeah,
I had fun with it, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna read a couple of them. I'll probably do like Dark Knight Returns.
pretty
and-
low stakes, very quick read, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it took a few hours. It was
Yeah,
about
well,
300
yeah.
pages.
But it's not something you're gonna be like a week of reading it.
No, probably
Yeah.
not. Probably not. No.
Yeah.
Wishful Drinking, the Carrie Fisher autobiography that she
Mm.
wrote and did as a one-woman show
Yeah.
before she passed away. Hilarious.
I'm sure it is.
So funny. She narrates it as well.
Mm.
It's
I bet that's really
so
cool.
funny. It's only about 3-4 hours
Mhm.
long. Like, check it out. It's
Yeah.
hilarious. Prayer for the Crown Child. Are we going to do an episode on the two
Yes.
of those? Okay. All right. No more need be said.
We have a lot to talk about, Steven.
So much. I think that'll be a fun episode.
think so
Actually,
too.
yeah.
Maybe we'll do that next week.
I finished my Star Wars Old Republic series with the book Annihilation. It was good.
Good.
It was a good book. Team of Rivals, which is a biography of Abraham Lincoln
Mhm.
as told through the eyes of his cabinet, which
Ooh.
were all people who either opposed him or were in a different political party. And so it was talking about his leadership skill in bringing together these people who either disagreed with him or had challenged him in the past or whatever, but he needed their expertise or their opinions, and he was able to have them work together as a functioning cabinet. And so it was basically, it's about him as a biography, but it's also about him like and his leadership skills.
That's very cool.
It's a very good book. I went for the abridged version because
Mhm.
the full version is like 26 hours long. It's a hefty one.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm still mid Theodore Roosevelt trilogy, so
Yeah.
no need to
No need.
overdo it on the
Yeah.
presidency. Got through another James Bond book.
Oh,
Dr.
you're picking that back up now?
Yeah, well, did I not mention that I had read another one a few weeks ago?
I
Live and Let Die?
Do not recall. You might have.
Hmm.
I swear I listened to you.
I don't
promise
know if I
do.
told you though.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
no,
goodness.
I picked that back up. No, because I made a comment of saying I've read two
Yes.
more
Yes,
this
yes.
year, and
I-
both of them were better than all of them that I
do
read
remember
last
that.
year.
I do remember
Yeah.
that now. Okay.
And
cool.
the streak pretty much continues.
Okay.
Yeah, all of the ones I've read so far
You
are
should-
far and away better.
You should make like a list of that, like the ones that you've read, like, and rank them.
I will. Well, I will probably end up finishing all of them.
And then that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Be a good Medium article.
Yeah, it would be. There's a few articles I could write about that actually.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot to say about like the changes in. I think there's a lot to say about the difference between book character and film character, especially now.
We talked about that a little bit.
I think there's a lot to say about like the change in the times, and even just the writing style is really interesting because like I don't feel like Fleming was as bad as he comes off sometimes in his writing. I think he was trying to come across a certain way and trying to evoke a certain thing.
Sure.
But I'm not sure. So I would have to do a little bit of research into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I could write about that now. And I am just glad that I'm getting into some of the better ones of the series. That's helpful because I was like kind of disappointed. Like how are these the things that spawned like the longest running film franchise of all time that I deeply love?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's been fun, and I think I probably will finish that out this year. I've read 8 of them now, and there are 15. I think.
Yeah, they're pretty short. Yeah.
Yeah. I can usually finish them in 1 to 2 days.
Yeah. Once you finish the series, I'll read one.
Will you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be able to tell you which one you should read.
Yeah. I was thinking about this the other day. Or were you done? Was that all you had?
Go.
I was thinking about this the other day, and I made a video on TikTok about it and had some interesting conversations. I really dislike the 5-star rating system.
Okay.
As a means of recommending books.
Mm-hmm.
For me,
so like how Goodreads, Fable, which we use. Yeah.
Yeah. So like everything, it's set on this like 5-star scale, and it means something different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you rate a book 2.5 stars.
Mm-hmm.
I look at that. I have no idea what you thought about the book. I know that on your scale, if 2 could be like awful.
Yeah.
But on my scale, 2's okay or something. Not saying that's true. But like it could be. And so it's so like subjective.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think about like what is a way that like when I talk about books.
Well, Anne, okay, so let's pause there. When you are doing a star rating, how like mentally how are you doing that?
So I rate books on vibes.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. So
exactly the same.
I very rarely rate a book and have a thought as to what the star rating is.
Yeah.
Until I've written the review and I just need to pick something.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick like a way to describe it, 5-star is the book I really liked.
Mm-hmm.
Really enjoyed. There was something in there that I feel like will stay with me. 4 stars, great book. Really no notes. 3 is okay.
Okay.
2 is less than okay.
Yep.
1 is bad. If a book is 2 or 3 stars, I'm probably not, or 1 or 2 stars, I'm probably not going to finish it.
Yeah.
Like that's a DNF for me.
Okay.
And so it's like that, and that's another thing is like DNFing books. It's like I just don't want to read books I don't like.
Yeah.
So it's like,
see, for me, DNF is like not even on the scale.
Yeah.
That's like a whole other class of book.
Well, it's like, so that's interesting. So like, it's worse than a 1 star.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 0 stars.
Yeah. I just like, I don't know. I'm such a mood reader, and I go back and forth on what I want to read anyway. That I'm like, I want to read other books. This book is not holding my attention, and it goes. If I DNF a book, it goes into 2 different piles.
Yeah.
DNF and try again later, or DNF and never try again.
Okay.
So there's a lot of nuance there.
Yep.
And so I was talking to other people about it, and a lot of people had the same kind of opinion. And so I've kind of just stopped doing it.
Have
like
you?
on Book Talk and Bookstagram, I do not put star ratings anymore.
Nice.
Just because I don't think it indicates what I actually think about a book.
Mm.
I would rather tell you with my words
With a review
than show you with the star rating.
Yeah, just to play devil's advocate for a second too, though, the star rating is more geared towards that quick like overview, like you click on the book on a website or something like that, and you're first going to see the star rating.
Yeah.
And then you're going to drop into the reviews, right?
Sure.
So the star rating is basically, okay, potentially hundreds or thousands of
Yeah.
people have given this a star rating, and so as a general consensus, here's the quality of
And
this book.
I do think it's valuable for that.
Yeah.
I do think
If
it's valuable.
thousands of people have said this is a 1 star, then chances are it's not that
probably
good of a
not
book.
great. Yeah, and
Now,
that's a good
depending
point.
on what the title is, I will dig into the reviews and find out why.
Mhm.
So, like last year, I read a wonderful book called The UFO That Took Jesus, I believe was the title. Very low rated book everywhere.
Yeah.
And I had a blast with it, let
Yeah.
me tell you.
Yeah.
I don't need to explain the book. The title pretty much tells you everything you need to know. It's an entire theory built around the idea that Jesus' resurrection was a UFO taking him away.
That's unbelievable.
That he was probably an extraterrestrial himself, actually. That's a book that you can buy. Yeah. That's a book that you can buy. Yeah, not well rated, but
Yeah.
very well loved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah. Then then you
but
can-
yeah, so the star rating is more for the general consensus. So for me, I also I don't think about the star rating. I feel the star rating, and I know that it's to contribute to a consensus,
Sure.
not to be taken as my opinion of the book.
Yeah, and that is a good point. I just think especially for social media, where it's it is so. If you're following me, and you watch my reviews, I take it that you want to know what I think, and so me being oh, it's 5 stars.
Yeah.
Is not necessarily enough for me to I don't know. So I think there's nuance there for sure, but I just wanted to talk about it for a second because it's something I've been thinking about a lot recently. It's no one can really agree what that is.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be a 10-star scale, and it needs to be
See, I like rating things 1 out of 10 a lot better.
I do too.
Because you have ranges at that point.
Yeah. I think that is maybe a way to kind of get around it too, where it's all right, well, 7 to 10, fantastic.
Yeah. Those are excellent books.
Yeah. 5, 6, okay. Anything below a 5 is on
I
the
would
lower
say
side of okay.
3 to 5 or 3 and 4 might be there were some good concepts, or there was a great character, or the humor was good, or there are components that are good.
Yeah.
But overall it's not great.
Yeah. And 1 and 2 again, probably a DNF.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking about it. I wanted to hear what you thought about it, because I do think it's, and this whole thing spurred the whole thought that I was having was the book that I'm actually talking about today. I didn't give it 5 stars, but I didn't like it any less than books that I had given 5 stars before. And so I was what is it about this book that I don't feel like is a 5-star book in just my abstract rating system?
Yeah.
And I couldn't think of it, so I put it up to 5 stars, because I was well, there's nothing that sticks out to me in relation to other books that I've read as this, and that makes this book worse.
Yeah.
I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I had to think about it a lot, and so I raised it up to 5 stars. I think, at least in my mind palace, maybe not on Goodreads or Fable, but I don't know, and I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to hear what you thought about it. I want to talk about that book, but first, before we do that,
I was going to say, you should tell us more about that book, but first, a quick word from our sponsor.
Sponsors this week. We'll get to it later. Firstly, Tether, our sponsor. Tether is a Louisville-based software company. Our podcast has been using Tether's system for organizing contacts, automating emails, and text marketing. It's made our social media way easier. And it does a lot of other customer relationship stuff that we are kind of trying to figure out how to use for us, and that have been very cool and very fun to figure out. Tether is at a price point that small businesses are able to afford it. And it's simple to use, and their customer support is awesome. They are personal friends, and we love them very much.
All around cool folks.
Yeah, so check out the link in the description here, as well as everywhere on social media. They are awesome. The other sponsor is us. if you don't know by now, because there is a trailer or an announcement that we made that came out a week before this episode will be out. Now we have a Patreon page. Essentially, what that is if you give us $1 a month, you get mentioned in the show. You get to submit topics for discussion, which will
along the lines of what we just talked about in terms of the rating system, like
so
star rating system.
if you have stuff like that, you
Yeah.
can send it our way, as well as we will send you out a monthly newsletter talking about what we want to do for the podcast, as well as what's going on in our lives, as well as other bookish things that we do.
Yeah.
Because we both have some other avenues, creative avenues that we talk about books on. So, so that is our ad break.
And break.
All right, now Stephen, let me tell you about a book.
Please do.
This book is called The Silent Land. It is written by Graham Joyce. This book was recommended to me by my friend Abby on TikTok. She reads a lot of like speculative fiction, horror.
Okay.
Excuse me. And
Bless you.
I trust her reviews a lot. So this was a book that I wanted to read and actually read with friend of the show, Josie Tegetov.
Hey.
For those of you who don't remember, Josie was our special guest,
Hi, Josie.
the only guest we've ever had on the show, for the Halloween Spooktacular episode, which was a lot of fun. Hello, Josie. She's also currently reading A Fate Inked in Blood, which we had talked about previously as well. Let me read you what I wrote about The Silent Land,
Please do.
and then I will get into it a little bit more. The Silent Land is a story revolving around a married couple, Jake and Zoe. Or Zoe, Zoe.
That's Zoe.
Zoe. The couple's on a skiing trip when a large avalanche engulfs them both, burying Zoe under the snow. They're both free and safe from the snow. They start to notice the world around them change. Everyone else is gone. And not only that, but even the two of them are not the same people they were before the avalanche. I don't want to get too much into the plot. But let me give you like a little bit more of the kind of vibe here. It's a very eerie and kind of spooky world.
Would you say it's an atmospheric
Ooh,
book?
I might say that.
Okay.
You could convince me that would be something that I could say. But essentially the themes of this book kind of touch on love, death, grief, loss.
Okay.
A lot of big things.
Yeah.
So the way that I have described this book, it's not scary as much as it is suspenseful. So it's a suspenseful thing. There is an element of what is the word that I'm trying to think of here, Stephen? What's the word I'm trying to say? There's an element of almost a false sense of security throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
And I love that.
Okay.
Personally. Essentially, once they are out of the snow, they go back to the hotel that they were staying in. Everybody's gone. The food on the counter isn't getting any like older. It's almost like they're stuck in this time loop. And then you think you know what's going on, and then it's not that. And then you think you know what's going on, and it's not that. And the characters feel that way too. So not only do we, the reader, go through this back and forth of, I don't know what's happening. Oh, no, yeah, I do. And trying to figure it out. But Jake and Zoe go through that as well. So there will be times in the book where they'll think they've figured something out. They'll explain it. The reader, me at the time, will be like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. That's what's happening. Should be wrapping up here soon. And then it's something completely different.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a lot of stuff that I like about a book that finds its way into this through kind of different means. So like the characters are really, really solid, but they're only solid because they are kind of a pair. So they're a married couple. They've been married for a while, and they really bring out different sides of each other. At the beginning of the book, they're kind of, I don't know, immature. Not in like a really just bad way, but they're just normal people. And there's something interesting that happens when they realize they have no idea what's going on. Like they are so out of their depth. They cling to what they know, which is each other.
Mm-hmm.
And something that the author, his name is Graham Joyce, does really well is, like I said, he broaches a lot of really heavy topics like death, and like the death of a partner, and like the death of a parent, in a way that is not only tactful but also increases, like it moves the story along.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like these little flashback sequences where they're not where they are, and then they get back and they talk about something else completely, just like your brain works.
Yeah.
Where it's like you think about something, oh man, that's sad, but then you have to go and do like your normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just I would call it speculative fiction. For those of you who don't know, speculative fiction is fiction that is set in our world that has some element of like supernatural or magical realism, otherworldly type stuff. So there is definitely that in the book. I think for me, what made it such a impactful read was like I said, the relationship between Jake and Zoe. There were multiple times, again, it's not difficult to do this, but multiple times I got like teary-eyed just because of the way they talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it shows, I think it's a blueprint really for how to love in crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And how to be the person for your partner that you know you need to be.
Yeah.
And the ending, I won't obviously spoil it. The ending is heartbreaking. But maybe not for the reason that you might expect it to be.
Okay.
So there's just a lot there, and it's only like 270 pages.
Okay.
And so all of this wrapped into this shorter book that I think is perfect for people who want something spooky, but also are looking for something with real emotion.
Yeah.
And a really strong character work. It's beautiful. So
Yeah.
I think you would really like this based on the characters that happen. And there is this element of like, oh, maybe they're imagining it, or maybe it's like maybe some other thing is happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, like I said, misdirection, which I know that you love.
Love me some misdirection.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I think that it's not perfect, obviously. But see, this is getting back to the 5-star thing.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's still stuck with me. I made my dad read it. And he really enjoyed it. But like, it's still sticking with me. There's a lot of sticking power for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's tough to talk about it without getting too much into the plot, just because the plot is so. There's really only one goal for them, is to figure out what the heck's going on.
Yeah.
And once they do, the book ends very abruptly. But it's just this. I don't know. It's beautiful, and the prose is really nice too. So the author, you can tell that he is very talented. I've not read anything of his, but I know he has written a lot of novels, and I would like to read more of them because they are really, really good. It was really, really well written.
Yeah.
I'm trying to compare it to something that you have maybe seen or read, but I can't. That's another thing. When I read it, I was like, this feels so original. Not maybe the plot, because the plot of I'm here, I'm left behind, is not maybe the most original thing.
Right.
But the way that it's framed, as in like, I'm alone, but with this other person.
Yeah.
Who.
The first thing it reminded me of was The Langoliers from Four Past Midnight, Stephen King.
Yeah. And I think that it's probably similar. I've not read that, but it's probably similar. But like I said, the depth at which Jake and Zoe have a connection makes it so different than anything else I've ever read. Like in that kind of rapture-y vein. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I don't know. I think you'd really like it. I think everybody would really like it. Actually, I don't know if anybody, because there's a lot of crossover with speculative fiction into science fiction, fantasy,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So I think that anybody who likes that kind of genre
Mm-hmm.
would really enjoy this. And also the horror element. There were
I do love some horror books.
yeah, and it's like I said, it's not scary, but it's suspenseful
Yeah.
because this is not really a spoiler. There are some parts where nothing is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Like, you're like, "How are we gonna figure this out?"
Mm-hmm.
And you always expect like a positive resolution, and so you're like, when they figure out something, you're like, "Oh, there it is. That's again the positive. Though that's the ending."
Mm-hmm.
And it's not. You're like, "Oh my god, what now? What now? What now?"
Yeah.
And there's just like I said, there's a lot of misdirection in that lens, I think, to the atmospheric idea that we're talking about of like an eerie, suspenseful, kind of just weird situation.
Yeah.
And it starts off where they're kind of enjoying it, where it's like, "Oh, we're alone here. We can do whatever we want." Like they go shopping at one point, and like we can just take it.
Oh, it's like Palm Springs.
I don't know what that is.
It's a movie with Andy Samberg and she was the mother in How I Met Your Mother. And it's just the two of them, and they get stuck in a time loop, and they live the same day over and over and over and over and again,
Yeah.
and they're like alone in it and stuff. And it's basically like exploring their relationship.
It's just
stuck in this.
then it's just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's a very similar idea. But you're kind of like thinking like, how are you enjoying this? Like
Mm-hmm.
you should be freaking out. But they explain it basically as like, no, we're just together,
Yeah.
and if this is the rest of our life, at least it's us together.
Mm-hmm.
And things take a turn, obviously, because it's a book. You know, so that's not really a spoiler either. But it's just, I don't know. It's really well-rounded story.
Nice.
Any
I'm intrigued.
yeah.
I will more than likely check it out.
Yeah.
You're hitting on some bangers in the last few times. So
What can I say?
yeah.
What can I say? Look at the score.
Yeah. If let's address the elephant in the room.
Yeah, really. We didn't even say anything about it. That's hilarious.
We got a scoreboard for our 1-year anniversary. We got a scoreboard.
Yeah, and so if you look at that, I have convinced Steven to read 3 books, and Steven has convinced me to read 2 books.
That is correct.
So I'm currently winning. And
Yep.
what was the text you sent me? We were talking the other day, and you were like, which in the loose canon that is the Bro Read This Book universe is the goal in regards to trying to convince
The
each other
actual
to read
show
books.
itself.
Because we
Yeah.
don't really, we do that,
Yeah.
but really we're just
But
talking.
we've talked about multiple books apiece now.
Yeah.
And the score is still only at 3-2.
Yeah. We just have very like I just want to read this book.
Yeah.
You know?
We are both kind of mood readers.
Yeah. But dude, I think this book is right up your alley.
Yeah. Just from the themes that you're talking about it exploring, I think it would be something that I would be interested in.
Yeah. Especially I think you would really like the relationship that they have.
Yeah.
And watching them navigate this uncertain, unexpected
Yeah.
world, with really no clear destination. Yeah, I think you'd really like it.
I will potentially throw that on the old TBR.
Heyo.
I'm in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does sound interesting.
Yes. You can talk to Josie about it too.
I've got a much longer TBR than I once did, though.
Yeah, dude, mine is getting out of control.
Yeah.
It's getting crazy.
I've technically got like 2 or 3 because I've got one on my actual like library app, and then I've got the one on Fable.
Yeah. Well, somebody was like, you could read a book if you lived to be like 75, and you read a book a week. That's only like.
You've told me this, or
Yeah.
unless that was a different person.
It was. I don't know,
We
but
talked about how depressing that was already.
it was me. Of course,
You were the genesis of this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't tell you again.
All right. Perfect. Would you like me to talk to you about this beautiful little book here?
You have no idea. Can I say something though? This book, I saw a signed copy of it months ago.
At half price?
At half price.
I
Yeah.
was still there, like 2 weeks ago.
It was not when I went.
Then they got another one.
No, it was not when I went this week. So maybe somebody bought it. And I thought maybe you bought it.
No.
Yeah.
No, I did not. No, but I saw a signed copy there
Yeah.
like 2 weeks ago.
I looked for it when I went back
Yeah.
this week when I got back from vacation, the day after I got back from vacation.
That's
Dude,
hilarious.
when I got back, though, I had a Book of the Month box with 3 books in it.
Yeah.
A 6-book order from a website and a package from one of my author buddies.
Oh my gosh.
And it was just sitting there. I was like, oh, this is a problem. So I'm going to go on a book buying ban, I think.
Okay.
Except I have a $25 Half Price Books gift card. So
Oh,
that
well, you
doesn't
got to
count.
use that.
Yeah, you have to.
That doesn't count at all. That's how I got through like half of January.
Yeah.
Was just from a Christmas gift
Yeah.
card.
I love a gift card, man.
Dude, it was a great gift.
Yeah.
I won't say the best one. I got a lot of really good Christmas gifts this
Me
year.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
It was a good year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about your book.
This
Yeah.
book is called The McMaster's Guide to Homicide, Volume 1, Murder Your Employer. So let me just I'm gonna go with the book's own synopsis just because it gives you a little bit of a taste of just the style and humor a little bit, I think. All right. Prepare yourself for an education you'll never forget. A delightful mix of witty wordplay, breathtaking twists, and genuine intrigue. Murder Your Employer will gain you admission into a wholly original world, cocooned within the most entertaining book about well-intentioned would-be murderers you'll ever read. Who hasn't wondered what the world would be like if a person who is the object of your affliction ceased to exist? At the McMaster's Conservatory, future deletists, never murderers, learn
That's funny.
to consummate execution of the homicidal arts. To this sumptuous campus come 3 memorable classmates, self-effacing Cliff Iverson, troubled Gemma Lindley, and Hollywood diva Doria May, all of whom have suffered menacing employers who richly deserve a deadly denouement. Under the tutelage of Dean Harbinger Harrow and the fascinating faculty of the McMaster's Halls of Poison Ivy, they hone their craft, each hoping to finesse a perfectly masterful murder. Called an American treasure, a true Renaissance man, and a genius, Rupert Holmes brings his wickedly clever storytelling talents to this outrageous and darkly comic mystery set in a secret, idyllic world where students of all ages learn how to do in others as you would have others do you in.
That's funny.
Right?
Dude, I like deletists.
I'm gonna
That's
hit you with
hilarious.
some quotes in a little bit.
Please do.
Because there's so many good
Yeah,
ones.
please quote at me.
And also like just within the front cover is
That's
a map.
Very cool.
So think of this as like Hogwarts for people who want to kill their boss.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just for killing your boss, it's killing anyone really, but it's a school that teaches you how to commit murder. And they have rules for it, like you have to have given them every opportunity to redeem themselves. They have to have actually done like some kind of harm or damage. Like there have to be sufficient reasons more or less to do it. And they have to have opportunities to not be killed and whatnot. But if all of those criteria are met, then they will walk you through how to plan and execute the perfect murder and get away with it. So think of it as like Hogwarts for murder.
Sure.
It's hilarious. And it switches perspectives.
Oh. I'm sold.
So you have kind of the
You got me.
omniscient
Yeah. Omnipresent. Omniscient.
narrator, which is the author is the dean.
Sure.
He's basically and he's got his own funny writing voice as well, but that's kind of the omniscient view. And then it goes into journal entries of Cliff Iverson.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the audiobook version of this, the person narrating the journal entries is Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah.
That is cool.
And he's fantastic.
Yeah.
For the
we
narration
had talked
there.
about that a little bit last week.
So the audio version has a bunch of little tidbits and whatnot that are just really fun. And Neil Patrick Harris is great. The other narrator is really fantastic as well. Really great story. And so basically, it's tracing primarily Cliff Iverson is the main character, but then it follows these other 2 students of McMaster's as well. And you basically are introduced to the school through Cliff and then the other two characters, and you track their journey, their education, if you will, through learning how to commit their murders. And then you see what happens as they are released back out into the world.
Oh,
yeah.
so it's all the way up until completion of said thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you get the full story.
Cool.
Yeah,
I kind of
so-
thought it was just going to be the school part.
Nope, it's not a series. It's all self-contained, which I really actually enjoyed.
Yes.
So it's basically just you get to have a lot of fun, and when you're done with it, you're done with it, and you can just have enjoyed the experience.
Yeah. That's nice.
yeah.
That's nice.
This is like one of the most delightful books I have read.
That is so funny
in a
because it's
long
called
time.
Murder Your Employer.
Yeah.
Delightful is not maybe the word that I would like
It's
just
just
immediately think of.
it's like dark humor,
Mm-hmm.
but not in a like gross or visceral way.
Sure.
It's like dark wittiness, I
Mhm.
guess. Kind of.
Yeah.
If you like Addams Family or like that kind of thing,
Yeah.
you would love this kind of humor. Just because it's kind of like those like dark double entendres
Sure.
and wordplay and different stuff like that. And the characters are pretty quirky and whatnot as well. Especially like all the teachers of McMaster's, and they have all their different specialties and weird backstories and stuff, and just a lot of fun. And there's actually a couple of little twists within the story
Cool.
that you don't see coming at all either, which I thought was really interesting. Because it's not presented as a mystery in any kind of way
Mhm.
whatsoever at all, but there's just a few twists and turns in the story that you're just not expecting. So that's really fun. Let me hit you with some quotations.
Yeah, please.
If you don't mind. This is a book that I attempted to annotate. So
I have a lot of respect for you for doing that because I don't know. I've not tried to do it, but I just feel like I don't think I could do it.
I started with an easy one,
Yeah.
which it won't sound like it, but I started with Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah. I
It's
bet
the
there's
first
so
one
much
I
to
annotated.
annotate in there.
There were so many
Ooh,
things.
boy.
And so I had like 4 or 5 different categories based
Yeah.
on color. And that one's a perfect one to annotate
Sure.
for the first time. I feel like shorter classics are great for that because typically the writing is going to be really great.
Yeah.
But yeah,
It's a classic for a reason.
yeah, it's a classic for a reason. The number of times I've said that
Yeah, I
after
know.
reading like obviously good
I
books.
think you've said that to me at least 5 times.
At least, yeah, at least. Okay, this is just in the foreword.
Oh, cool.
After all, it's difficult to obtain a student loan for a school that not only denies its own existence, but teaches its students how to deny other people theirs.
I'm sensing like a theme here.
Yeah.
Very
Lot
very
of-
dry. Like
Yes. All right. Yeah, those are just good ones. Hold on. I'm gonna keep this interesting.
Please do.
Yeah.
Um.
I'm gonna find better. There's also illustrations throughout this whole thing.
That's nice.
This is honestly just one of the more like fun reads from a book perspective.
Yeah. I love when books have little treats like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to keep the silence from happening.
It's working.
So I'm just gonna ramble for a moment here.
All right. So, someone tries to escape,
Mhm.
and they've stolen a car,
Hmm.
and so the quote is, they've just passed a speed limit sign. It says a posted speed limit of 90 would suggest either a metric country or certain parts of Texas.
That's good. That's good.
This kicked off a chapter, and I was reading and listening at the same time, but mostly listening at this point. And I stopped it and rewound it like 4 times, and I was cackling. So the chapter begins with, Dulcie Brown was late for alibis and had no excuse.
Oh, I kind of hate it, but it's hilarious.
Oh, man.
I like that kind of humor if it's done well, and it seems like this is done well.
Yeah, it's done. It is. And the thing is, it's kind of front loaded with it.
Sure.
And then it like goes down a little bit as it
Okay, I
goes.
gotcha,
So
I
it's
gotcha.
not like overwhelming the whole
book is,
time.
yeah.
This was another favorite. I don't think this will need to be cut. There's basically a teacher that walks you through the more romantic arena of murders.
Sure.
So if you're going to use romance or sexuality to do your person in, this is her avenue. And so she's convincing, I think it's a Gemma at this point. She's convincing her of a different avenue for completing her murder, and makes a suggestion. And Gemma replies with, "But then I'd be a common prostitute." And the teacher replies with, "Oh no, you'd be first rate. I'd see to that, promise." And it's just like, so the whole thing is just so quick and witty, and even if it's not making like a joke or a double entendre or whatever, like the dialogue is just quick and fun, and it's sharp.
Yeah.
I guess would be the way to go about
Yeah.
it. Like if this were turned into, this would be an amazing like live theater performance.
Interesting.
The writing really lends itself to that kind of
Yeah.
to that
Well,
kind of
when we
thing.
start the Bro Read This Book Theater Company,
Theater
we can,
company, yep.
we can
Mhm.
do that.
Yeah.
We can reach out to the author and we can maybe get the rights.
Which brings us to our third sponsor,
the
just
Bro
kidding.
Read This Book Theater Company.
But yeah, dude, I do think you would actually really enjoy this. It's a really easy read. It's really fun, and it's one of those that you get kind of energized from reading it just because you're
Yeah.
having such a good time. Like
know-
it gives something to you.
Do you know there's a paperback version?
Is there?
I do know if there is.
Oh, I think so.
Okay. Because
I'll find out.
reading hardcover books.
Okay, I'll find out.
Okay, cool.
There
Let me
should
know.
be.
I'll look at it. I could also find out
Yeah.
probably. Oh, using the internet maybe
Possibly on
Yeah.
the computer.
on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll probably look because I do want to read it.
Mhm.
And maybe audiobook this one, but if I read it physically, I will need a paperback
Yeah.
edition because I don't really
Yeah.
love reading hardback books.
Yeah.
Which is a topic for another day.
I like some of them.
Yeah. They got to be very
Depends.
specific ones. Like
Yeah.
I got a book today. It's this big. For those of you who are not watching,
That's roughly 3
it's-
inches.
yeah, it's called a Day of Fallen Night,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like 800, 900 pages, and it's hardcover. But it was $5 on this website, and I was
Nice.
like, all right, I'll just buy it. And it came in, and I was like, I'm not gonna read this. Like I'm probably not gonna read this in
Yeah.
this format. But yeah, dude, I do want to read that. That sounds really good.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot of fun.
I think.
I don't know how many books I've read that I've laughed out loud
Yeah.
multiple times, and this was one of them.
I was gonna say I think that it might make its way up the TBR pretty quickly, because I'm currently reading a book called Jade City, as well as The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin, and they're both kind of not heavy, but just there's a lot going on.
Yeah,
So I kind of want like a palate
Like
cleanser.
tougher reads.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
This would be perfect for that.
yeah. So it might move its way up the TBR pretty quickly.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, as I was prepping for this episode, I had to stop and like walk through the plot and everything again, and I remembered several things that stood out that were wonderful. It's just one of those books where, like, even if you don't remember the specifics of it long term, you just remember that you had a really good time.
Yeah, and sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, highly recommend.
Cool.
Oh, I was gonna say something, but I
Remember.
forgot.
Mind Palace.
Oh well, you just told me you're currently reading. I was gonna say, I'm currently reading, and we can just
Mm-hmm.
be done
Yeah.
blazing through that. Is Mexican Gothic. It's been
Yeah.
on my TBR for a while.
You enjoying that?
I am actually.
Good. I've heard good things.
It's somewhat of a slow burn,
Sure.
but it's well paced. I mean, if you're not going into it thinking like something insane is going to happen every 2 seconds, it's well paced.
Yeah.
It's not slow, but it progressively unravels through the story, and it's so atmospheric. I know we just texted about this earlier, and I
Yeah.
used that word already, but that's the best word for it. So think like classic horror films, where so much of it is down to like the sets
Sure.
and like the Dracula's castle or Frankenstein's lab,
Yeah.
or that kind of thing. And so much of the horror and the feel of the film comes from the setting.
Yeah.
That's very much how this is. And so the setting,
I
as
like
we've
that.
talked about before,
Yeah.
the setting is very much a character in the story. Like looms over the whole thing.
Sure.
And just everyone fits into the mold of the story so perfectly. Like,
I'm excited to see what you think about this one as you finish it.
yeah. Me too,
yeah.
because I'm really getting into the like final act of it. So
Yeah.
things are starting to like twist and turn. And
Sure.
it's getting interesting.
Yeah.
But so far, like, yeah, it's been really, really good.
We've been kind of killing it, man. As
Yeah.
far as the books we're reading, I think we're doing.
It's
I
been
think
a
we've
good
been
year.
reading a bunch of good books.
Yeah.
The only one book I didn't like, and
That's
that was
That's why we had to
yeah.
get a scoreboard.
Yeah.
Because we're gonna be
Yeah.
running up the numbers here pretty
Yeah.
soon.
All right, man. You got anything else?
Well, I would like to thank our audience members.
Yeah. So
Because the most valuable thing that you have is your time, and you spent a whole lot of it hanging out with us, listening to us talk about stars and books and scoreboards and a whole bunch of stuff that's going to get cut out. Maybe it'll end up on Patreon one day.
Maybe.
Who knows? But yeah, thank you so much for spending your time with us. It still like blows my mind whenever I do go back in and look at the numbers of,
Yeah.
of podcast listens and whatnot, and see like that there are people that are paying attention and following and going along on this journey with us. So thank you so much
means
for
the
tuning
world.
in.
absolutely.
What about you, Matthew? Would you like to say anything?
No.
Okay. Well then, from the deepest parts of our souls and the bottoms of our hearts, let us just say, now this is podcasting.
Wow.
An hour 6, and after you cut stuff out, it'll probably be 56 minutes. Dude, we are on an
Yeah.
internal timer.
I honestly, I think it's pretty impressive.